Hey YouTube, welcome to Avis Finance, where we talk about everything from trading to investing and even macro in this crazy financial world. Alright, in today's video, I'm going to talk about a brand new product that's hot off the press, Apple's M1 MacBooks and Mac Mini, and why these couple of products are going to be game changers in terms of consumer tech. On top of that, I'm going to tell you about what I'm going to do in terms of trading it and investing it, how I'm trying to make a quid here or there with it, and hopefully maybe you might get a few ideas from it too. So as you might have seen on the title, what's so special about this Apple M1 chip? Like, isn't it just like a redux, the reappropriation of the A14 chip? Yeah, it is. So what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that these chips are significantly faster than Intel or AMD's latest when you compare single core speeds. This is crazy because this is just the first generation. Imagine the next generation and the next and the next. At the rate that Apple innovates, as well as potentially other people who are going to get into the game, and I'll talk about that later into the video, this is potentially like, you could say, an iPhone moment. Now, let's look into specifically what is the difference. So these smartphone chips use an architecture called RISC, which is Reduced Instruction Set Computer. Now, Intel and AMD uses CISC, which is Complex Instruction Set Computing. So the difference between this is that every single cycle for an x86 Intel AMD chip, imagine we have a crank of a handle and it does a certain amount of work in each clock cycle. With the CISC system, because it does a lot of complex things, sometimes whatever it's supposed to do, it's not ready yet. It needs to play around the data before that data is ready to be worked on with each clock cycle. With the RISC architecture, every single clock cycle, it has a very simple instruction to do this. And it just does it, hits it like a hammer every single time, and nothing goes to waste. So this really explains why these chips are so much faster. We're talking anywhere up to 2 to 3 times faster, potentially, than a typical x86 CISC chip. And then you add on to that the level of power that's being used, or rather saved by these chips. On average, these chips on the laptop, and I think also on the Mac Mini, we're talking about 10 watts of usage. With the Intel and AMD, an average desktop is probably 100 watts of usage. And if we're going a bit more efficient route, maybe you might look at 50 watts or a little bit less on a laptop. But compare that to 10 watts. We're looking at 10x potentially, 10x efficiency, less power. And it's no surprise that in these new MacBooks, we're getting something like 18-hour, 20-hour battery life, whereas before on Intel chips, we're getting 10-hour battery lives. So this is dramatic differences, and it's just beginning. Now, I'd like to add also the latest reports of, every year they release like the fastest supercomputers, right? This year, they released the list of the fastest supercomputer, and guess what's on top? Yeah, a smartphone ARM chip. Not one of those ones based on Intel or AMD, these x86 chips, but a smartphone chip is now faster than all the other supercomputers. We've got a smartphone supercomputer, and guess what? Guess how much faster it is than the second fastest in this supercomputer list? It's 3 times faster than the next closest Intel chip as a supercomputer, which is crazy. So you can actually see how far this can scale. This is just the beginning. Now, I also want to talk about the other opportunities with this, other players, and how we can actually make money off this. Now, if you are looking to be an Apple investor, you're probably invested in, or the price might be a little bit high for you. I actually have been doing a little bit of research to see how else you can jump in on this, because I truly believe that this is the next iPhone moment. This is huge. And I did some digging. So this architecture is using the ARM architecture. They license this. It's not like Intel or AMD who make the chips and they sell it. ARM Holdings, they sell the designs for this, and maybe Samsung or Qualcomm or Apple, they get to design their own chips and make it themselves. Well, they actually get like a manufacturer to make it, but they essentially make the chips themselves using the licenses. Who owns the licenses? Well, I did some digging. So apparently there's this company, a small little company called Nvidia. They just kind of bought this company not too long ago, a few months ago, and the deal will go through in about 18 months time. But Nvidia, have you guys heard of it? Well, turns out, well, I'm sure you have, because if you've ever played a video game, these guys are the biggest graphics card makers in the world. And now they've got what potentially is going to be the fastest CPU chips going for it. Imagine that. Imagine every smartphone using an Nvidia chip, every tablet using Nvidia chip, and every potential laptop and desktop using the Nvidia chip. So these guys are going to be printing money from every direction. Every server needs to pay Nvidia a license fee. And what else are they going to do? Well, they're going to go, hey, you know what you can do? We're going to bake in our our GPU cores or whatever it is. We're going to shove that into these ARM chips. We're going to give a little bit of a discount for you, but all you need to do is just integrate the graphics solutions in there. So you'll just have Nvidia graphics on there too, right? So they're going to sell more graphics cores, and when they bake this in to their ARM chips, this is a potentially huge moneymaker. Imagine every smartphone, or probably Android smartphones, having Nvidia graphics cards in there, or graphics chips in there. So this is going to increase their revenues dramatically. And that's not taking into account yet of how much they're dominating the gaming scene, or the Bitcoin mining. So they're selling a lot through the gaming channel. And on top of that, they're actually killing it in the server market, because we're now coming up with these techniques or these new, systems where we're using our graphics cards to accelerate our servers. So they're killing it. They're taking market share with the graphics cards as servers. And now if we use faster ARM chips to take the server market share, imagine Nvidia taking the lion's share of the server markets. So they're not just a gaming company anymore. They are potentially a smartphone, a tablet, a computer desktop company, a server company. So the revenues could go just like, whew, crazy. So that's something to bear in mind. And I tend to look at the charts. We're going to dive in towards the end of the video. I've got a little bit more to cover. Now, the second company I've been looking at, now let me try to explain this to you. So this is my theory, and hopefully the theory makes sense. I don't think Windows is going to sit still. They're not going to let Apple just eat up the market share of Macintosh. They're going to eat up Windows. In fact, they've been creating a thing called Windows on ARM. That is Windows using these smartphone chips. And they've been working very closely with a company you might know as Qualcomm. And Qualcomm makes a lot of the smartphone chips that are out I think I have a Qualcomm chip on one of my phones. If you have a phone, probably like you got a 50% chance it's using a Qualcomm chips. These guys are really good at making smartphone chips, and they are the best at making antennas like 4G and 5G. And I think in the 5G generation, which is about to start, I think they've got a massive lead in terms of quality of it. Qualcomm, the interesting thing about them is that their price to earnings ratio is actually pretty low compared to the growth that I foresee before them. And we're going to jump in the charts towards the end of this, and you'll see that potentially we're talking about a partnership between Windows and Qualcomm. I've been reading between the lines. Windows have been kind of, ditching Intel for Qualcomm. They can see the writings on the wall. They just haven't really jumped fully on board yet. But once Apple pushes them like this, they're gonna double down, they're gonna double their engineer count to make this Windows on ARM work and make it super efficient. Right now, there's a few issues. There's a few teething issues. The emulation is like 60% efficient, whereas Apple's Rosetta 2 is perfect. So you can run classic Intel and AMD applications pretty well on these new Macs, on the existing Windows on ARM laptops. They're not doing so crash hard. They're losing maybe 40% efficiency. So that's something to bear in mind. There's a long ways to go, but when you're looking at a company like Qualcomm are just killing it through this smartphone generation, and I think this is a further runway for them to go to make far, far more money. Anyway, let's look at these two companies on the charts. Let's get into it. Okay, so we have here the Nvidia stock chart. And I love looking at charts. I look at fundamentals too, but we're going to dive very lightly, you could say, on fundamentals. We're going to focus on the chart right now, because the chart also talks about the price and the price earnings ratio and so on and so forth. Right now, we can see that Nvidia has had a huge run up. Look at this. Look at this. You had a little drop at the beginning of 2020, and everyone knows that was a huge drop because our economies were all shut down. After bottoming out at $200, now it's $550. Now, do I think it can pull back to maybe $400 here? I think that's a good level. Yeah, maybe. But look at the market, look at the S&P 500. It's pretty bullish. Let's have a quick look. I think we've just broken up through new highs. By the way, excuse those drawings. Those are the sort of trades that I planned. So they don't do too bad. I think they're doing pretty good. Okay, back to Nvidia. We're in an uptrend, a market uptrend. And one more thing, when we're in the market uptrend, we had a bit of a pullback. We're at the dip level. And also on top of that, let's have a look on the bottom right hand corner. And we shall see that the price earnings ratio is about 88. So that's not too bad. Imagine maybe they double or triple their profits. I think that could easily become just a 30p ratio. It's completely fine. But looking technically, we've just experienced a pullback from the third high. I think maybe take a shot here, could be pretty good. Not financial advice, but I'm about to load up on a little bit. Now, let's jump into Qualcomm. This is the one that I really want to focus on. Qualcomm. Let's have a look. I was planning to make this video a few days ago when it was around here, but it's had a pop up. They just had a new press conference with the new Snapdragon chip, the 888s. Maybe they want to get some Chinese customers, I don't know. Probably. And I'm Chinese, so they love 8s, so anyway. Okay, I'm going to show you the most important number, and anyone that loves fundamental analysis will love this. We've got a price earnings ratio of 33 on a high growth company like Qualcomm, with what I just explained earlier in the video, whereby they're going to have potentially a huge runway, and they have very competitive products, and they have 5G coming up. You put all those things together, I think and we have a market uptrend. I think we have a good opportunity to jump in. And with technology stocks, for me, I don't look at it in terms of just financial valuations. And I'm a big valuation guy. I'm a big technical analysis charting guy, by the way. And as the channel grows, I'm gonna jump into the charts even more. But I think we could have on a technical basis, I think we could have a trade around here. If it drops down to 148, slows down a bit, I think it's worth taking a shot. You got the 50 moving average, it's gonna come up to around 144, maybe 145. You get around this area, don't catch a falling knife, let it slow down a bit, and then give it a shot, and hopefully it turns on the upside. And we've got a lot of other macro factors like Janet Yellen coming in, potential Biden presidency. He's going to be very, very pro technology. So you put all these things together, I think you've got a perfect storm. A perfect storm in a good way. A perfect storm for either of these trades. You know what? I think this video is about to wrap up, but I want to leave with one more thing. One more thing, guys and girls. We're gonna do Apple. We're gonna look at Apple, because how can we have a video about Apple M1 without looking at Apple? So this is a bonus, and these are some of the trades I've been working on, and they're okay. They're okay. I won't give you the context to what I was actually doing here. It's another video. Let's just have a quick look at the price earnings ratio. We got 37 PE ratio. I think that's pretty solid. Apple's a great company. We are looking bullish by almost all means in terms of, you look at this chart, you look at the S&P 500, very bullish. You look at the NASDAQ, also very bullish. I think it's got more room to run. We had this little pullback here, which gives it that platform for it to push up just that little bit more. I think you add all those things together, I think you might have a trade. Now let me just get one more thing before I wrap up. Let's get a precise level. I'm liking, if you're looking to get in, I'm liking this level again, right here. Around 116, something like that. You got the 50 moving average. You got a previous level I did like before. I still like this level. I mean, we could jump down to 107, but that's a little bit of a hard ask. I can already see high highs, high lows. We're about to rip up. If now, not a financial advice, but I actually like it when it moves already a little bit in my direction. I'd buy it right here, right at this high. I don't care. I wouldn't care. And these are the type of stocks you want to hold on for years and years. You trade into these stocks, but then you hold on to it for dear life, because these are long-term investments. That's the way I see it. If I want to trade, I can trade the euro. I can trade the US dollar. I can trade oil. I can trade a lot of things. We've got a few ideas. I've got a few ideas for US dollar. These are some of my ideas for trades and gold and whatnot. I mean, I had a level right there. So anyway, we'll jump into those in future videos. But in the meantime, that's my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. And so I'm just checking, the camera and everything's good. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. Hopefully you got something out of it. And I look forward to having you on the next one. If you like that, please hit the like button. It really helps out my channel. I'm just getting started. And on top of that, I love the stock market. I love stocks. I love investing. I love trading and macro and all this sort of stuff. Hopefully you're into that stuff too. If you're into that, please hit the subscribe button too, and the bell to get regular updates. I'm always on top of the market. I'm always like in front of the charts, and I'll be making regular videos and with my newest ideas and analysis, and hopefully I can see you there. So with that being said, see you in the next video and have a good one.